question is, what will you do to curtail the flow and the sale of drugs in Starke County?
Well, I think first of all, we need to put our foot down and put it down hard and show that we're not gonna put up with it here in Starke County. And if that is what we need to do to show these people we're not gonna put up with it, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have task force. We have K-9 units all throughout the county. Let's bring all them together and have a K-9 task force. Let's put those dogs to use. And like I said, I wanna just make a bold statement that you're not gonna do it in Starke County, that we're not gonna put up with it. We care about our families, we care about our kids. I have a son that's 13. I hate for anything to happen to him, to get him involved with drugs as some of the other ones have. And like I said, I just want to make sure that that's a stop and that we make that bold statement that you're not gonna do it in Starke County.
Like I told you guys before, the drug epidemic is enemy number one for me. We must do a better job at all facets, and I think all the candidates up here agree. Between communication, working with other local, federal, state authorities, other local law enforcement, Knox, Hamlet, Judson. You know, last year, in the last 9 months that we had recorded information, there was 57 episodes of drug overdose in the community, in the county. The number one thing that cause of death in white males from 10 to 40 years old is drug overdose. And being a county of some 20 some odd thousand people and ranking where we rank in drug overdose and drug overdose fatality is absolutely unacceptable. I appreciate what Kelly says about the canines, but we've had those for several years, and we continue to be number one. So we've got to find a different avenue. We've got to look at it at just more than just locking people up. We've got to have better education. We've got to have drug programs through the sheriff's office. I'm currently working with an accredited author, a medical doctor, on creating a drug rehab program that can be used in our community that's low cost, and I think that's something that's important. It cannot just be taking people to jail. We have to do that to get it off the street. We have to do that to let people know we're not going to take it. But we've also got to create rehab programs and do things kind of like the farm program has at the sheriff's office now to make sure that we not only stop it, but when those people are caught and incarcerated, we're giving them a better chance at opportunities when they get out. I think as sheriff, that's something else I want to do, is working with some of the businesses. If you go around our community, you see help wanted signs everywhere, and trying to create a bridge and a gap to get those business leaders to work with the sheriff's office and help transition people coming out of the jail into roles where they have jobs when they get out. And a lot of times, and especially as a business owner, I try to go out of my way to hire people like that to give them the opportunity, but some businesses look at you, and if you've been incarcerated or have a drug problem, they don't want anything to do with you. So we got to bridge that gap and try to give those people a way to make it for themselves instead of just breaking into your homes to try to make money for themselves or continuing to lean on drugs when they have episodes of mental illness, which is another issue right now that's huge, not just here, but throughout the entire country, and especially with the pandemic. So the sheriff's office has to go above and beyond and do more than just putting people in jail. We have to be communicators, we have to be educators, and we have to be rehabilitators from that office to try to help our community.
I think all the law enforcement agencies here in the county, we're all fighting that fight, the drug fight. But like I mentioned before, if elected sheriff, I will implement a tactical narcotics team drug unit to where we can target who's bringing it in and arrest those involved. Back in the early 90s, I was on the tactical narcotics team. Starke County did have a drug unit, and it went very well. We made a lot of arrests back then. I don't know, over the years it just somehow fizzled out, not sure why. But if elected, I would like to bring that back. Thank you.
I personally think that the way to attack this is with the task force. Because it brings different kind of resources, brings other agencies involved. You can get some federal agencies involved. And the good thing about getting federal agencies involved is they usually have a lot of money. And that's what you need for this. And you have to establish a good working relationship with the prosecutor's office. And without that, I mean, you can submit all the cases in the world, But if you can't get the prosecutor to prosecute them, then you're not going anywhere. And I also believe that the height of funding would be a huge help, because that brings a lot of different resources that we can only dream about here in Starke County. And the last thing I wanna say is I do believe in rehabilitation, I really do. And I think the farm program and all those programs are great, but you have to have punishment that goes along with it. I mean, maybe that's old school, or, old school policing, but you have to have both. You just can't have one or the other. You have to have both. That's all I got to say.
Well, it all starts with the kids in your community. You need law enforcement involved with them. I know for the last 10 years, I've been involved with kids, trying to educate them. I'll go on the baseball fields, football fields with them, in uniform even. I've coached many different sports. You need to get them familiar with law enforcement. We're not all bad guys. We're here to help them, friendly. Just need to start from the youth first and work your way up. Implement some programs. We had the teams prior to me being into law enforcement. That was kind of old school. We had the MCU, which was Major Crime Unit through the Sheriff's Department just a few years ago, which that's kind of dissolved due to manpower from other agencies. We work well with others, get other agencies together and get task force back up like that. Also, look at Marshall County, for example. It's a bigger county. They have a drug task force. They have a prosecutor. They have a judge. They work very well with everyone over there. Whether you're getting 2 years to 20 years in prison, it all depends on the individual, how many times they've committed a crime, the severity of the crime, but you kind of need that punishment, like Jack said. You know, follow through, but there also is people that need rehab, which right now we have some federal funding for. We got an MRT, mobile response team, that we go out and assist counselors and all that in. During that process, so far in the last month and a half, I've actually helped 2 individuals get a job that they've been addicted to heroin. And I've had some resources from other businesses in Starke County that I've actually been able to employ them. And they've actually been to work every day since they've taken a job there. So hopefully some programs like that, like I said, hopefully work releases, it's just different little programs you have to implement to get in. Instead of arresting somebody, then the next day throwing them back out in the street. They have no family to go to, they have no job, no house. You kind of have to take that step down program. It's going to take time, but it starts out from youth and just build your way through the program.
Kind of just touching base with what everybody else has said up here, task force is a big thing. But the biggest thing is your sheriff is I'm going to make everyone be an active officer. The response time is ridiculous. As a sheriff, I can also be out there working. There's grants available, like Jack stated, the HIDA program. There's no reason why this county doesn't have the HIDA program and use that and utilize the enforcement. We have canines. Canines are an asset to any and every department if they're being used and utilized properly. Drugs are getting into this community because of mobility. There's nothing being done with the people that are bringing the drugs into the community. The cars aren't being seized. Working hard and with your prosecutor, you can start seizing the vehicles. If I seize your vehicle, sell the vehicle, I don't care if you've got 10 grand debt on that vehicle. If I sell it for 2,500 bucks, that goes back into the community for the drug rehab programs. And that's what's also needed is a rehab for the people. People make bad choices, it doesn't make them a bad person. So without stopping the traffic, without bringing it, into this community, it's never going to stop. There's a war on drugs, as I stated earlier. Battles are going to be fought. We got to win the small battles to curtail the war on drugs.